Please, hold your applause. Louder, louder. All right, good evening, folks. As you heard from that lovely introduction, thank you, Franco. My name is Brian Belasco. Tonight, I will be your friendly MC / host / Phil Donahue / David Letterman / Jerry Springer / James Lipton from the Active Studio. Basically, my goal tonight is to get one of these guys to cry like a baby and one of them to throw a chair at me because they find out I'm their illegitimate son. All right, now, I know you did not come here this evening to listen to me ramble on, so we're going to keep the ball rolling. Please help me welcome to the stage two of the Valley's biggest icons, both figuratively and literally, Ed Muransky, Jimmy T. Tressel. I feel like you clapped way louder for them than me.
Thank you.
You can't high-step that anymore?
No.
You have a preference on side?
We'll scissor paper.
They're going to do rock, paper, scissors to see who sits where. All right, so we have like a fireside chat.
Feel like Santa.
Ed, I will be sitting on your lap later on. So it's kind of like a fireside chat. There are no rules. We're off the cuff tonight. I'm going to fire out a bunch of questions off the hook. There are no rules or regulations. You guys can talk as long or as short as you'd like for each question. If you ramble on, I'll cut you off because we have so many questions and things that we want to know with regards to you and your past and your future and all that jazz. So kind of like a football game, ironically. We're going to have maybe like 4 quarters and overtime, maybe a few penalty flags thrown in the mix. And then at the end, we're going to open it up to the audience for questions. So maybe there's that thing you would love to know with regards to Jim and Ed. Okay, with that, let's keep the ball rolling. So, first question. But first of all, what do you prefer I call you? Would it be Mr. Tressel, Jim, James, Coach, President, Jimmy T? What do you like?
Jim?
Is that thing on?
Is there something on there? Hello?
Let's click it. Check. There you go.
Yeah. Sit down.
Yeah, I knew that was coming. I knew it. I introduced myself to him. He said, "Nice to meet you, Ryan." I go, "There's a B in there somewhere." Okay.
It's Brian?
Brian.
My bad.
I knew it. That's okay. Listen, I did not correct
That's
you.
what
You're
happens
good.
when you retire.
Right, you
Right.
get old, you leave letters off.
Right.
I know.
Should I call
Jimmy
you
T is fine.
Jimmy T. How about Mr. Muransky, sir?
no.
Big Ed? All-American Ed.
Ed.
I like All-American Ed.
No, we're
Just
done.
Ed and Jimmy T. Okay, first question, Jimmy T. The question on everyone's mind. How many actual sweater vests do you own? No, just kidding. I'm teasing.
200.
200. The over-under was 27. Okay. Question number 1. You just arrived here. No one knows you. You know no one. How would you introduce yourself to an audience who does not know you? So we're looking just for a quick little background, 1-minute elevator speech, if you will, where you grew up, where you came from, and how you got to where you are now. Quick little bio on yourself.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jim Tressel. I'm from Berea, Ohio. I was born in Mentor, but I grew up in Berea, Ohio, went to Baldwin Wallace College, the Harvard of the Midwest. Maybe not. And that's all I got, Ryan.
All right, Ed.
I think he left a couple things out.
I do too.
You got to get a microphone.
Check.
Right here.
Which one of these microphones work?
This one. That one's just recording
Hello?
audio.
Hello.
I didn't sign the flyer to be recorded.
Actually, Ellen told us to put that on here.
Okay.
So.
And streaming live somewhere.
No, wait a minute. We have to clarify. Chris and I already talked about this. If any of you talked to Ellen, there were no ladies here. This was all guys, cigars, and whatnot. Okay, do we got that?
I will vouch for you.
Okay.
And my name is Ed Muransky. I grew up right behind Pemberton Park on the south side of Youngstown. Started at Taft Elementary School on the south side. And after the Little Redmond had a 130-pound weight limit when I was in the 3rd grade, and I was 162, my dad took me to St. Cyril Methodius. I graduated from there in Cardinal Mooney. I was lucky enough to get recruited and found myself at the University of Michigan. After that, played with the Los Angeles Raiders, Oakland Raiders, and kind of the rest of my life is that I tell the young kids, I had some wonderful mentors and some wonderful individual opportunities that kind of came my way that God blessed me with. So, and I love Youngstown, Ohio. I'm back here. Couldn't be happier.
Now, wait a minute. I went to Loomis Elementary. I mean,
There we go.
I didn't get to mention my elementary. Loomis Elementary and Rame Junior High before Berea High School.
Nice. They're not Jim Tressel Elementary now? Or?
No.
All right, so for those of you who did not know who
The
these
schools
two
are torn
gentlemen
down.
were, now you have a better idea of where they came from and where they are now. So, obviously, this Saturday is the big game. I believe the record right now is 61-51-6 in favor of Michigan. So, with the big game popping up, Ohio State looks pretty good this year. Michigan, not so good. We know that, but that's okay. So, Michigan is coming off a national title season, and this year is not what many.
I didn't.
Okay, Eddie, I got you. If you did not hear, last year's national title season winner was the Michigan Wolverines. This year, they probably couldn't even beat the Little Redmen.
Ed.
Zing!
Ed.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be neutral.
Right?
I am neutral. I am neutral, except for these socks right here. Okay, so the big game's coming up. Michigan, again, not what a lot of you had hoped for. To me, Michigan's season last year and this year is like a golfer. So imagine birdieing number 8 here at the club. You feel good, you get to number 9, double bogey. Every member in this room, every member in this club has double bogey number 9. Why, Ed? I think you know. But I'm not going to bring it up for 2 reasons. Number 1, I don't want to get kicked out of the club. And number 2, I don't want to get kicked out of the club. All right, so the big game this weekend. What are your thoughts on the Wolverines' chances?
Well, obviously, Ohio State has turned into the Yankees and paying everybody.
Whoa!
Not like classy when Jim Tressel was there. Just kidding. Ohio State's a very talented team, and they have something this year that after you get beat the last 3 years, I mean, they literally were on the cusp of being in the national championship discussion the last 3 years. I think it was the best team that Michigan played last year. And if they had McCarthy and vice versa with McCord, they probably beat us. But I think, it's the game. It's the highest point spread in the history of the game at 20.5 point. And 20.5. And, from Michigan's standpoint, I think, you have a coach that never was a head coach, a couple coordinators that are maybe refinding themselves. And we graduated a lot of guys that are starting in the NFL this year. And I think the cumulative trauma of a late national championship win, the fact that McCarthy was not necessarily going to the Minnesota Vikings, so they couldn't go in the portal and get somebody, kind of a cumulative trauma that we Eddie and I talked that we thought we were going to win a lot of games 10-9, but I think the pall of the lack of quarterbacking and some of the early season losses kind of has the whole team playing down. Believe me, going into Columbus, you'll get Michigan's best shot. Whether that's good enough, talent to talent, if they play 10 times, it's not even. But it's one game, and it's like it is all the time. It's turnovers. It's like Jim and I talked. What's the weather like? What's the wind like? But Ohio State's a damn talented team this year. But Sharon Moore started calling plays in the second half of that Northwestern game, if anyone noticed. So it might be interesting. The kids definitely are motivated being the big underdog.
Right, and I think that is part of it. It's their Super Bowl for both teams. They can both have losing records, but when they come into that game, there's a mindset shift. What do you think, Mr. Tressel, with regards to Ohio State's chances of winning on Saturday?
Well, I would echo what Ed said. Last year's Michigan team was really good. I mean, they were a good football team. They were good across the board, and I don't think they've had that Will Johnson this year, have they?
I think, what did you call it, Eddie? Draftitis. I think he has a little draftitis.
So is he playing?
After we
is he
went
playing
5-5,
Saturday?
I don't think he's playing.
Because he's a good player, and they got those couple D linemen and so forth. But in this game, I don't think it matters. I mean, it's going to be a battle. The Wolves will play till the end, and the Buckeyes will play to the end, and Ohio State's talented. There's no question about it. They've got more on the line right now, which is good and bad, because that can tighten you up a little bit. But there's nothing like this game. I was telling Mike Tomczak, who's sitting over here, my first year as an assistant coach at Ohio State, Mike was our quarterback, and I remember going to the game in the Big House, and I had been around football my whole life, and then I got into that stadium, and I got into that game, and it was different. And I was like a basket case. They kept calling up to the press box. I was up in the press box, and I was like, I couldn't talk. I had nothing to offer. I was just, because that game's so different. So this game, Ohio State's got more talent. Ohio State's got more to lose. But in this game, it will be interesting.
Any given Sunday, right?
Saturday, Ryan.
Jesus. Guy, listen, that was good, right? This is not scripted, by the way. All right, so it is a big rivalry, but my question is, if you think about rivalries, so, Ohio borders Pennsylvania, Penn State, you would think that would be a rival. You think Michigan State, Michigan, they're both in the same state. What is it that makes the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry so good, and what do you like about the rivalry, and what do you not like about the rivalry? We'll go to Big Ed first. What do you like about that rivalry? What do you not like? Maybe there's something you just...
Well, I think historically it started kind of over the Battle of Toledo. Like Toledo was part of Michigan, and then way back when. And it went back and forth. And then I think when the pupil took over at Michigan from the master, Woody Hayes, I think all bets were off. So in '68, Bo comes from Miami of Ohio, cradle of coaches. I think Woody felt the fact that they were such a rival that was something he shouldn't have done, and publicly that was like the biggest, crazy thing that Bo Schembechler ever could have done. Behind the scenes, and we have Michigan royalty here tonight. I just want to recognize coming down my good friend Scotty, who's been my friend since we're there. We have Mary Passing, who's here, that knows all these stories. Mary Passing knows me when I got called to Bo's office Monday morning at 8 o'clock for some of the things I should have done. Mary's from Ann Arbor, Michigan, and Mary was Bo Schembechler's secretary for a lot of years, and appreciate you guys coming down. But the one thing that a lot of people don't know is how close Bo and Woody were, and you know that that's true, Mary. And in his later years, he told me a lot about that and about their friendship and about some of the hardest days of their life when Bo was sick and Woody got kicked out of football and all different things, that the first person back and forth that was there and how they talked for each other. So I think as much as that's what got it started, I think that 10-year war kind of fueled it forever. And then Michigan had the nice happening, of John Cooper coming on, and all those wonderful Ohio State teams that would go undefeated, and then
You had a good
I'd
run.
make Lou sit in the stands the entire time. Michigan would beat them and ranked 30th. And then that damn guy Jim Tressel had to come and make that speech and ruin my son's undergrad and grad and whatever hell he was there, going 9-1 against Michigan. But I think it's wonderful that it's a rivalry from way back when, and it's something like Jim said. When you see those two helmets on the field, it's just something different. When you're from this area, you're brought up with it, and it's just, especially seeing Bo and Woody on the field and the way you did and I did, it's just, going way back. That's what I like the best, and that I like historical things like that. I like things.
The history.
Yeah. I kind of dislike maybe how some of the fans take it kind of over the top, maybe more in Columbus than in Ann Arbor. It's kind of my least favorite thing about it, which is why I won't go down there anymore. But, from my standpoint, Jim and I have talked all the times, with us getting closer and having Mike Tomczak close to me, we were always brought up that it was we and they with Ohio State. And that was our biggest rival. And sitting here as a 64-year-old and knowing what this man's all about, and spending time with coaches and players from Ohio State and all of Jim's great players coming down here, I hate to break it to all of you, but Bo was Woody's mentor. Bo recruited the same type of people that Woody did. Bo had coaching for him, the same type of coaches that Woody had. And we're kind of more the same than we are different. And that's the greatest thing I like about it, that years later I have brothers who played against me, and Mike Tomczak, where we share and actually could say go Bucks and go Blue because we respect each other so much and do so many right things. And that you see when Bo and Woody said, I'll judge how good this Michigan team is when I see what kind of fathers you are and how hard you work in life. And so much of that is true. And I think you feel the same way. And watching some of the players that have graduated from you, not just on the field of what they did, but you have to have a huge chest on what they've turned out in life. So that's the favorite part of it, that I think it's turned out such great people. I just wish maybe some of the Ohio State people didn't drink as much and things that they get.
Well, they do sell booze in the stadium now. So that's a great answer. And again, rivalry, competition, it's important. It's healthy.
I don't remember the question.
I mean, long-winded one over here. No. The question is, what do you think makes the rivalry between Ohio State and Michigan so good? And is there anything you do not like with regard to the rivalry?
I think the thing I like about it best was it was always the last game of the regular season. And you always wanted to talk to your young people about getting better every day, on the field, off the field, wherever. And that was always just the highlight. What I don't like necessarily is how we've evolved a little bit. Now it's, the Big Ten championship game and the this and the that, and it's taken a little glamour off of the game.
Yeah, we could play 3 times now.
Yeah,
in a year, Ohio State could play Michigan 3 times in this new BS.
Right. Yeah. So I like it because, it's always the hardest game. It's the cleanest game. It's the toughest game. Later on in life, you get to hang out with the people that you were a part of something that was extraordinary. So that's the best part of it. It's just it's a different game than any other. And I just hope it doesn't lose any of its importance as we go. What don't I like about it? 2003. We lost to those guys in 2003, and I still wake up at night thinking about that game.
Okay.
So that's the only part of the rivalry I don't like.
Okay. That's a respectable answer. All right, so give him a round of applause. I think what a
Hey, how
lot.
come you get a drink and we
Oh
don't?
yeah, here's water. Do I have to pour it for you now, Jim?
Come on. I mean,
Jeez Louise.
Ryan, we're paying you a lot of money to do this job.
Ed, would you like some?
Oh,
Would you guys
please.
like a cocktail?
You know,
There's a candy bar
I've
from
never had a
Gord's.
candy bar with my face on it.
You good then?
This is like major. Mary, would you sign this for me? I've got a Sharpie.
He's not kidding.
Would you pass that back and have Mary sign that? Here, I've got a Sharpie here. I think. Yeah. You guys don't understand. When we were young coaches and we used to go and visit Michigan all the time, and whether I was coaching at Akron or Miami, wherever, Mary had the keys to the kingdom, didn't she?
Oh, yes.
You weren't getting in the film room unless you made nice with Mary. Like, you know, and so I'm going to put this on eBay. To Jim. Relax, Ryan.
I'm just background music. This is about you two.
You're not even background
Oh my God. The zingers. I'm going to bring you on the road with me, Mr. Tressel.
Chelsea, I don't know. But look at
All right.
that. You don't have one of those.
I do not. You know the dreams you have about 2003? I have
Yeah.
dreams negatively about Monday mornings.
Walking into Mary's office. Coach, you'll see you in a minute.
So I think a question some of us want to know is, have you always been on the side of the fence you're on? So, Ed, was it just because you went to Michigan that you liked Michigan, or have you always been a fan of the Wolverines?
So growing up Catholic, I was always a fan of Ohio State and Notre Dame.
Okay.
The Stoopses were big-time Michigan fans because of Eddie Moore. So I knew a little bit about them, but it was always Ohio State and Michigan, or Ohio State and Notre Dame. And I could remember when I was in college or high school that there was a Sports Illustrated with Rick Leach on the cover. And it was the first time I saw that winged helmet and Rick Leach, and he was a freshman that was like a phenom in the Big Ten. It was like, wow, that's pretty cool. And it really wasn't until recruiting that I was with Dr. Vuksta and Dr. Baruchak down with Woody Hayes and
Carmen Cassis.
yeah. And he was repeating himself at dinner. So later that night, I really felt that as much as it was a special place and it was rolling at the time and I could play, that I knew I was going to be part of a transition there, that he wasn't going to make it the 4 years. And with Notre Dame, we had a coach at Mooney. Coach Butchie was a star, played at Notre Dame. Didn't end well there. And let's just say that some of the recruiting letters did not find it my way. So I had already spent time at Michigan, and I thought I wanted to be a pharmacist. And by the time Joe Yonto and Notre Dame recruited me, I already had my heart. And my parents loved it and everything. So kind of with the Steelers and Browns
Okay.
and all of that I started out a Browns fan and Steelers. So
there was a time then where you were a Buckeye fan.
absolutely.
What would it cost me for you to put this on and wear it all night?
More money than you have.
It would not fit your head. I mean, you're a giant. This thing would not fit. Mr. Tressel, have you always been a Buckeye fan?
You know, I didn't like either of them. Neither of them recruited me.
Okay. Fair answer.
So, you know, no, I always liked Ohio State. My dad played at Ohio State for spring practice of 1943. And he was the player of the year in the state of Ohio, and Paul Brown recruited him there. It was a big deal. And then, like most of the greatest generation, he enlisted and went to the war and didn't get back in time to have a spot at Ohio State. But he was always an Ohio State, Paul Brown fan, Woody Hayes fan. When Bo went to Michigan, so many of us young coaches who knew of him at Miami of Ohio, and then what Bo did masterfully is he brought all these Ohio high school coaches with him to Michigan. whether it was Jerry Hanlon from Ursuline and who else was on that first staff that when he first took that group there, they were all Ohio guys.
Yeah.
And so those Ohio...
Terrell Burton.
Terrell, yep. And so they brought all the Ohio high school coaches and all the smaller college coaches, and I was a smaller college coach at the time at the University of Akron and then Miami of Ohio. And so they always rolled the red carpet out. So I always really appreciated Michigan because you love to go learn from them. And you know, Bo was an Ohio guy, and as Ed said, Woody was near the end and was a little bit different, and his staff wasn't quite as congenial to the all the coaches and so forth. So, you know, I grew to like Michigan, and then, you know, I was coaching at YSU, and I didn't care about either of them. You know, right? I mean,
Go
I just cared
Gwins.
about YSU, and then all of a sudden I'm coaching at Ohio State, and it's pretty obvious.
All right. The rest is history. So this is, I believe, the first time ever for a 12-team playoff. Ohio State, I think you got a pretty good chance of getting in this year. Michigan, I don't know what the hell's going to have to happen.
Here. Don't worry.
Oh, he's talking to Ellen. Don't worry, we're recording it all for you. So what do you guys think about the format of the 12-team playoff? Do we like it? Ed?
I thought I liked it until Boise State had a bye and Ohio State was playing BYU and somebody else. I mean, to me, giving byes to the conference champions, I mean, I think the byes should be to the top 4 teams in the country. Other than that, I think you're still going to have water cooler talk on who should be number 10, 11, 12, 13. Still going to happen. But if you lost 2 or 3 games, play better next year. But I think with NIL and the portal, all of you can see parity in college football and basketball. I mean, people are not staying, kids are not staying the way they should and fight for a position. They're moving someplace else. So the talent is kind of mixing. But you know, I think the more interest like that and be able to have a home playoff game in the Horseshoe in December for Ohio State fans and stuff, that's like nirvana. Notre Dame playing at home, playing for something. And it's bringing back the fact that maybe more than 1 or 2 bowl games matter. Like when I was growing up, it might be the Sugar Bowl that really didn't matter, but it was like number 3 playing number 4, that the winner of that, depending on what happened in other bowl games, now you have half the kids not playing in the bowl game. Last year, I didn't even know who half the people on Ohio State's team was playing in the bowl game. Now you got 12 teams where it matters. You got, you know, you're teeing it up a couple, 4 weekends where, as a football fan, it's games that matter.
Kind of exciting. Coach Tressel, what do you think? You like the 12-man?
You know, I think I would go with 16, and I'd have 1 less regular season game. Because I worry a little bit about how many miles we're putting on the treads, especially those kids that are going to have an opportunity to play. And, you know, if you don't get a bye, you're going to play and go to the championship, 17 games.
Well, 12 games, the championship game is 13.
And then 4.
4, yeah.
Yeah. So to me, that's asking a lot of those kids. So I would have 1 less regular season game and make 16 teams. And I'm with him. If we went to 24 and you had a bye, then you take the best teams. If you went 16, no one would have a bye and be 1 against 16, just like the old 1AA days.
Okay. So, Ed, you mentioned the transfer portal, which I believe in 2018 that opened up. And you also mentioned NIL, name, image, likeness, which started in 2021. Are you
Ryan, why did we get you a seat here? Why are you walking around?
They want me walking around for the cameras and all that jazz.
That's the old they do.
Plus, my back's to half that audience if I sit there the whole time. Plus, I don't know if I want to sit by you the whole time because
Okay.
you
All
make
right.
fun of me way too much.
All right.
Although it is two people between ferns, for those of you who know Zach Galifianakis. Some of you were, who was thinking that? Who was thinking between 2 ferns? Bobby Boucher, of course. Okay. Do we like the transfer portal and do we like the NIL? Let's go with Jimmy T. Coach T, do you like the portal? Do you like the NIL?
I like the portal for graduates. So if you get your degree, if you stick in there and you hang in there and go where you committed and finish your academics and can play a fifth year, I'm all for that. I'm not a real fan of the transfer portal if you're not playing or you think the coach doesn't like you or, whatever. The NIL, I'm all for the NIL. I wish we would have done it 40 years ago, and we would have started giving the players a little something, and I would still be employed.
Oh, great answer.
That is for sure.
Oh my God. Hey, I could actually check the next question off my list, because the next question was, how do you feel you would have ended up had the NIL been present while you were coaching? So thanks for clearing that up for us. All right. Big Ed, what do you think? We like it?
I think one of the great things about college sports and athletics all told is how you learn to compete. And so many things, and Jim and I have talked, what Woody and Bo used to say that we thought was tied to football is so tied to life. And I think it's so easy for these kids to jump as opposed to me competing against Jim for a position. And I think you're setting these kids up for failure. I think they're losing out on the biggest part of being a collegiate athlete, and that is competition and how to live with life. That sometimes you don't like your boss. Sometimes there's somebody in front of you that's damn good that you got to find a way around. And I think with the way that it's set up right now,
it's an easy way out.
It's just an easy way out, and the money's flowing. But I don't think we're teaching the kids what the biggest part of, at least what I felt at Michigan. I see the guys that I graduated with. I see the guys that he coached, and they're all good fathers and good men, and very proud of how they had to fight, whether good, bad, or indifferent. So I have to say that I'm against the portal. I'm fine when it was a transfer portal for graduate students that wanted that extra year and had a chance, like who was the quarterback that was the first one for, he's the quarterback of the Steelers now. Yeah, Wilson. Wilson.
Okay. So, all right, that's a great answer. And you kind of alluded to something that I was going to ask you guys about with regards to our culture seems to be consumed with sports, football, basketball, whatever the sport may be. Do you think it's healthy to be engaged in a sport, or do you think sometimes that sport just takes too much of one's soul, if you will? So, Mr. Tressel, what do you think? Are sports good? And do you think they can become too much for someone to handle, and that's all they focus on? Because what Ed said earlier to me resonated, because there's more to life than just sports. There's life, and you got to live it. So what do you think? Sports good, bad, and then how does it, parallel with life?
You want to ask that question one more time?
I know. I knew that was too long.
Right.
I freaking knew it. As I was saying it, I'm like, this is way too long. He's not going to remember half of this. All right, so here's the question.
Is this a one-year contract?
I'm going to give you the thing. Am I talking about?
No.
Blame Todd Franco. So are sports good? Can they be too much?
Absolutely. In fact, if we could get every young person to be a part of some sort of team,
okay,
whether it be a football team, basketball team, the marching band, the theater, the engineering race team, whatever, being part of a team is critical. I think where we struggle a little bit is when we get confused as to what the values are that you gain from being a part of that competition. The handling adversity, handling success. Like you said, the boss might not like you, finding a way to get the promotion, learning the lessons. But when the sport becomes all about, can I get the trophy or can I get paid or whatever, I think we've lost a little something. And really, honestly, when people ask me all the time about the NIL and the portal and what are we going to do, I always say, well, who's in the room talking about the solution? And I would love to know what the desired outcome is. Is this an educational process or is it an entertainment process? If it's entertainment, it's about money. That's okay. And so set it up that way. If it's about education, then set it up that way. But we've got a lot of work to do to straighten it out.
Okay. Ed, what do you think? Healthy?
Well, I think sports in general is healthy. I think whether you're a parent of a 7-year-old and you're too focused on sports and traveling around, not allowing them to be a kid is wrong. And I think letting, a 22-year-old go to 5 different colleges to try to win a job as opposed to win one is wrong. At the end of the day, I've never heard it put that way, but it's so true. Harvard has football, but Harvard is education first. Harvard's not in the portal. Harvard's not, and they have the largest endowment. If they wanted to, they could own, sports.
Right, they could buy it.
And I think the NCAA or whatever body is there, you and I have talked about it, have to decide what Jim said. They have, what are we when we grow up? If we're on the entertainment side, then you're going to have, unions, you're going to have an employment agreement. You might have some people playing for Ohio State that never stepped on their campus and just play football for them. I don't think anybody in this room wants that. Or is there an educational element and there's still a part of this that's being lost in this? It was so bad before that some of the kids that couldn't balance a checkbook were giving their heart and leaving college with nothing when they were making money. So now it's gone to the other extreme where you're giving kids that are still playing high school football $12.5 million at my alma mater. That just blows my mind. But that's the world we live in. And hopefully it's getting so crazy. Some of the people from the Big Ten I talked to last year said it has to get totally crazy and get rid of all the lawsuits before we figure it out. But they really, when they grow up, I couldn't agree more with Jim. What are we? Are we heading down this educational route and let entertainment, let the NFL have a scrappers kind of team or a AAA kind of team, or are we going the educational route?
Good answers. So you both have led people of all shapes and sizes, whether it's in business, on the field. So we'd like to know the comparison at the university. El Presidente, yes, sir. So what is the difference or comparison? So, for example, is it more difficult to lead a player or a professor? Is it more difficult to lead a doctor or a golfer?
I'm gonna answer this first. That this is going back a few years. When Coach Tressel retired from football, he was with the Indianapolis Colts, and YSU was down a president. And there was a small group of us that went the non-academic route and laid out all the reasons why a Jim Tressel would make so much sense. And all of those elements, Brian, whatever the hell your name is,
You know it.
If you're a leader of people, if people respect you, if you could hold people accountable, if you could get a consensus, if you can get people in the room that like you, you're going to be a successful leader at every level. And Jim Tressel, whether you want to think this or not, Bo Schembechler was the CEO of Schembechler Hall, of the football building. Jim Tressel was the CEO and president of the Ohio State University football team and at Youngstown State. So from my standpoint, him making that transition and being able to talk to people. Now, did he have to learn some new vernacular? Did he know what a provost, the Bugabaga was and all of that stuff? Yes, there were things he had to learn, but the things you can't teach people, he had in his heart and his head. And to me, those are transferable.
Character.
Yeah.
Right. And you did spearhead that campaign, so I hope you've thanked him. But
I
with
was on
regards,
the boat. I was on the boat.
With
He was on
regards,
the boat.
Remember the boat?
so
Yeah.
you both had yes moments in life where you kind of arrived. Jim, one of our folks out here, Johnny Shiro, still gets chills when he rewatches that speech where you made your debut at Ohio State. Basketball game, you remember? You said in 310 days, Ann Arbor, Michigan, on the football field.
The worst day of our life.
Right. Was that planned and rehearsed? We want to know. Did you know going on that court that you would say those words that day? Did you know you arrived?
Well, Ed called me up and said, "Hey, I got a line for you."
All right. So now we know where it came from.
I said, that's a good line, Ed. Thank you. No, the truth of the matter is, they told me we were going to the basketball game and they're going to introduce me. I'd wave to the crowd and 12 of them would clap. They didn't know who the hell I was.
Right.
And so I went out. And then they handed me the microphone.
And you went off the cuff.
I thought, well, you only get the microphone once. But I knew this. I knew that our people loved the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry. We'd struggled a bit. I know they wanted to be an equal partner in that rivalry, and so we had to let them know that we understood that.
Right. So you had that momentum with regards to new kind of what you wanted to do. Didn't know exactly what you were going to say, but you got there. You were happy to be a Buckeye. And same thing with the presidency of YSU. Like on day one versus being a coach day one versus being a president day one. How does that vary? If at all.
Wow.
Do you want Ed to answer this for you?
Ryan, that's a rough one. Being the president on the first day,
Right.
I had to find out what the provost was.
Right. Okay, there you go.
What the hell's a provost?
What the hell is that? All right.
We have a union? What the?
So it's
Wait,
fair.
help me understand. Tenure?
10-year, right. So it's fair you've had numerous yes moments, and we love that. And Ed, I mean, you've had numerous. So
I didn't say I had numerous yes moments.
no, I'm saying it for you.
Okay, I was
You've
gonna
had
say.
numerous moments
words
where
in my mouth.
you arrived, if you will.
This is being taped.
You arrived. Ellen. So you've arrived. I mean, you arrived at YSU as the coach. You arrived at Ohio State as the coach. You arrived back at YSU as the president. You did a little stint in Akron. You've arrived. I mean, there are things that you can be proud of and pat yourself on the back for. Ed, same thing. He arrived at Michigan. He arrived in the NFL. He arrived in a Super Bowl. He arrived in his new headquarters at Southwoods. He arrived as the pretzel guy, if you will. The guy's got numerous things going for him. Ed, what do you think of the accomplishments you have got you the accomplishment? Was it the drive? Was it the perseverance? Was it the thought process behind it? Or was it the people you surrounded yourself with?
It was the people, I said earlier, it was the people that God allowed me to run into, my mentor.
Chris.
My wife.
Right.
Obviously, her father, who I met later in my life, Father O'Neill, who taught me things I didn't even know what he was telling me. Ted Lalakis, when he pushed me when I was young and clumsy and told me what I could do. So I've had 5 or 6 people, and I always tell young people that are gonna, things you're gonna be involved in or people you're going to meet that are gonna change your life. And to me, I've just been so lucky in my life to be able to have open ears, and I've just been blessed with opportunity and people that have allowed me to learn and just take things. Went to Michigan, I never took a business class, but I had a father-in-law who said, you don't have that, but why don't you go back to school and learn a little bit about the financial statement and things, but you have people skills and things that might make you successful.
Then you went to YSU and got those courses.
You did.
Exactly
Right.
right.
You did.
Hello, YSU.
I don't know
Thank
if you guys knew that, but he did come back to YSU and pursue
correct.
the
After I got
business
my
course.
Ryan, I just
Michigan
told him
degree.
that.
Oh, yeah, my bad. I want to be like you, Jim.
Okay.
So, with regards to wins in life, I guess there are also
It's about time for the crowd to ask questions. Ryan,
No, that is not on my
you've
schedule yet.
overcome your
That is
usefulness.
not on my schedule. Although, you know what?
Okay.
Let's shake it up.
Okay.
You know what? I'm going to shake it up for you. So we do have the audience going to ask some questions towards the end, but Jim wants them now. So where's my man Vanetti? So Packer Thomas, one of our big sponsors, they are allowed to ask a question.
Wearing neutral pink.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Switzerland.
So let's get a question from the audience, specifically this table right here, and it's not coming from you, Bill, correct? You passed the buck to this dude right here. All right. What's your first name?
Dave.
Dave. It's all you.
Okay, so obviously football and business have a lot in common to where you need to have a lot of drive to be successful at both. So what do you think football has taught you to be successful in business? And in turn, what has football taught you that may have hurt you in business and in either any sort?
The probably the best part, and I thought this was kind of a Bo-only kind of direction until Jim and I had a chance to talk, and he used to tell his teams the same thing after national championships, is that the greatest speech that Bo ever, you remember when he kicked us off the field, Mary, we were #1 in the country, getting ready to play Wisconsin. They kicked us off into the team room, kept our helmets on. And he came in there and said, you never, ever are going to stay the same. All of you think that you've arrived, you have All-Americans, you have #1 rating. Every day in life, you're going to get better or worse. And if you go out there and work your ass off, you're going to get better. And if you think you could throw your helmet on the field, Wisconsin right now is working their ass off to beat your ass and get better, and you're actually getting worse. And obviously, when you're 19 or 20 years old, that had everything to do about Wisconsin, and it had everything to do about life. So when you take a look at Southwoods and Chestnut Land Company, is that Chris Sammartino at the Lake Club and George, they all hate me because our companies run at a pretty high level. Yet there's never any day where I rest. So if you take a look at Southwoods and what was on our board and all the awards we have and the year that we're having, it would be like, God damn it, relax. But I challenge all of our people, what's coming tomorrow? How are we getting better? What are we doing differently, Chris? How do you have the right people in the field? George, are we giving the Lake Club what we need to survive? What's happening with all of this? I think that's the greatest gift positively. I think negatively, kind of the only thing, because a teammate you love no matter what, is that maybe you're a little bit naive, that not everybody has the same emotional makeup that you have. Sometimes people disappoint you. And in life, you after a while, you tend to understand that a little bit. But when you're a teammate, no matter what, Bubba Paris is my teammate. That's my guy. We're going to war together, not really knowing emotionally where that guy's headed the rest of his life. And I think in business, all of you have been there, or friendships or whatever. Sometimes people disappoint you. It'd be a great world if all of us were mentally and emotionally the same. But we all go to sleep, but some people don't have any problem putting their head on the pillow and being a different person than you are, and that's what makes the world go round.
Was that you're going to have to repeat it for this one, I tell you right now.
What
Jim?
was the question? No.
I knew that was coming.
You know, I think the best thing that being a part of sport does for you is it helps you understand there's going to be days when it doesn't go well, and there's going to be days where it goes well. But in both cases, you have to handle it. If it's going well, you can't relax like he was talking about. They were reminded. But the days that it doesn't go well, you're going to have to handle that as well. And that's the only thing we all know for sure about life, is that there's going to be some days that are good and some days that aren't. And how we handle those tough days is really going to be the key. And that's what sport teaches you, is that if you want to survive, you're going to have to handle the moments when it's not so good. And as far as the things I don't like about it, sometimes those of us that have been in sport sometimes get to hard charging a little bit without listening at times because we're in such a rush to get good. And I learned early in my administrative life that being an intentional listener and slowing down, and we don't have a game Saturday, and start learning a little bit was a good lesson for me. But I'd rather err on the side of hard charging than I would, relaxing.
So wins are good, right? I mean, Jim, you won the opportunity to be here tonight with me. How's that feel?
That's huge.
That feels good, right?
Maybe a highlight.
I knew it. All right, so with winning, there also comes losing. So let's talk a little bit about maybe some of the times in life where things did not go the way you wanted it to go. I know, Mr. Muransky, you did an interview with Todd Franco, greatest golfer, and it was on the greatest YouTube channel, and it was with regards to one of the first restaurants you opened in South Carolina. Boom, we hit it, and then... So how do you guys overcome a loss?
Well, once again, I had my mentor, Don Pepino, next to me. And we thought we had, other than insurance and other businesses, we were the first franchisees for Shoney's, if you remember Shoney's.
Alex
you remember
Schoenbaum.
Shoney's,
Alex
right?
Schoenbaum,
right?
All-American Ohio State.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. 1938
I
for
made Lou go
you
to
older guys.
lunch there every day because we were losing so much money. But the interesting thing with it is that we made a bad decision. We had an operator that we thought was a good operator that couldn't operate. And I learned from my father-in-law that in some of the most adverse situations come some of the great opportunities. And he wanted to make sure the banks were taken care of. He wanted to make sure that we had real estate, let's get it sold, and let's get out of it to know that it was there. And the family took some heartache, and literally from his standpoint, they had talked about selling their house and downsizing, but it was more important to do the right thing because we had made those decisions. And I always say it was my greatest, probably 6 months of my life of learning business was the greatest failure we had. How we dealt with adversity, how we dealt every day in trying to do the right thing and selling those things. Because like you said, when it's going good,
It's good.
it's good. I mean, when you're undefeated, it's good. When you're 6-5 and pointing fingers at people, but that was definitely the lowest part family-wise, and it was definitely the greatest part of learning that I would never trade for all the money in the world.
Okay, great answer. And you mentioned family. Obviously, we have Chris here, your daughters, your son. How influential are
Son-in-law.
they? Son-in-law, Josh. Am I right?
Daughter-in-law,
Boom. Daughter-in-law, Chelsea.
beautiful hair.
Boom. Anyone else?
Scotty.
Scotty. Okay. So how influential is Chris sometimes with the decision-making and things that go on? I mean, she obviously dressed you tonight. That's obvious. But besides that, Chris, I mean, do you consult your wife?
She's a boss.
Okay. What a good answer, right?
So listen, from our standpoint, like with Jim and Ellen, you have to, when you do the things we do during the day, you have to have, my wife is smarter than me. She stayed home and she took care of the kids and took care of our house. And that was our pact that we had. And in any rough situation, our morning talks and things that we go, I take from the car I drive to what we have. I mean, it's a real conversation. Not many big decisions are made if it's not a nod that we agree with each other. So I mean, I have a great partner in that. Once again,
Yeah. It's a good
Very
support
much.
system. Jim, same thing with Ellen? I don't know how she bears you, but
The hard part with Ellen, and I'm sorry she's not here, but Chris Muransky told me no women were coming. So, but anyway.
I cut for you.
Right, cover for me. When I would come home from the game and she would say, how come you run that same play straight up the middle? She said, if I know it, don't you think the other team knows it? I heard that 4,000 times.
Jeez.
And I couldn't wait for the one time it worked. So I could come home. Did you notice that? No, I was at the restaurant.
Smart woman.
No, you have to be smart enough to go to the people who will tell you the truth.
God.
And so often when you're in charge or the head coach or whatever, everyone wants to tell you everything that they think you want to hear.
Yep.
And you have a good partner when your partner will tell you the truth. And we used to tell our players all the time, you can talk about your friends, and your friends are the ones that you want to hang with, and, they got your back and they support you. But really, your friends are the ones that tell you, hey, get out of here. Or, hey, don't talk to her that way. Or, hey, we shouldn't be doing this. That's who your friends are. And you're blessed when you have a friend at home that tells you the truth. And you also know that he or she's going to be with you,
Thick or thin.
After she's told you the truth, she's still with you.
Right. And that's a beautiful thing, a good support system, whether it's a friend, a spouse, a family member, a son or a daughter. It's a beautiful thing. So I have a
You're
question.
getting kind of emotional here.
Well, I said someone was going to cry tonight. I didn't say it was going to be me. So if you two were to arm wrestle, who would win? Okay. All right. Just checking. How would you coach against Big Ed? So you're the coach on this side of the field. You see this Goliath over there. If you were coaching during his time playing, how would you coach against him? Chop blocking is allowed. So how would you handle Mr. Muransky if you were coaching?
I would just put 2 guys over. Okay. Pretty simple.
All right, let's take another question from...
Can I answer that too?
Yeah.
I would take out the punter and the place kicker, and the 2 most important things in the Jim Tressel
pretty
offense.
smart.
Hey, now, wait a minute. I do have to defend myself here. How many people watched the Ohio State-Indiana game last week, okay? If it weren't for the punt, which is the most important play in football, right?
Indiana would have had a shot.
They'd have had a shot. So I rest my case. I'm tired of being belittled for that comment.
All right, let's go back to the
How many
audience.
pages you got there?
I got a shit. I got a ton of pages here. I'm all discombobulated. Petri. Is it Petri or Petri? Petri. Petri. I thought so. I'm like, he's not a Petri dish. All right. You have a question, I think, right? Sure you do. You better. We told you that last week you had to answer a question.
All right, so both of you guys have a pretty storied Youngstown history. I'd love to hear your favorite Youngstown moment over the course of your lives and careers here.
You've been in Youngstown longer than I have. Go ahead.
Wow, I don't know if we have enough time. I think one of the great things is my daughter, who's a writer, loves some of the Youngstown names like Cookie and Chookie and all the great Youngstown names. But I would think from a Youngstown story standpoint, it's the work ethic that I saw growing up in the greatest generation, I think lives today in all the kids that saw that, and that I think that's part of your work ethic and part of the Stoopses and part of Ray Mancini and part of all the greatness that came out of here is that Youngstown was a hell of a place. I mean, there was, if you wanted to work, you had a job, and there was a lot of pride here. And I can't say, one story, whether it was underage drinking at some of the establishments or some of the things, but there was an Ohio State argument that my brother-in-law got me in Mickey's bar, typical Youngstown scenario that I ended up not being able to walk away from it and just had to have one more go at it. Ended up in a paddy wagon, and the guy I got into the fight with got me out of jail. And the policeman that put me in jail is now one of my best friends, Harry Wallen. So
Great.
we always say in Youngstown, whether it's good or bad, there's kind of like 2 degrees of separation.
Right.
You don't know that person, there's something about them that's going to come back to get you. But it was a hell of a place to grow up, and that I wish my kids would have seen the south side of Youngstown and some of the things that were going on and the soot on your car and all the activity. But what a place we had.
Right. What do you think, Mr. Tressel? Youngstown, any great stories? I'm sure you have a few.
I can barely get out of this chair, but I have to stand up for this story. Okay. Ooh, when you get my age, so this is clearly my favorite Youngstown story. I mean, if you asked me 50 times, I'd tell you. So as we were trying to get better when we first got here, we kept telling the players that we'll only do something extraordinary if you understand that it's bigger than just you, that it's about the city, it's about the community. We kept getting a little bit better, and they started understanding that a little bit more, and then all of a sudden we win the national championship. And here's the story. We land at the Youngstown Warren Regional Airport, cold December night, 1991. We'd just been through 15 games and won an exciting national championship against Marshall. We get to the airport and there's 10,000 people. I never saw anything like it in my life. I never saw anything since. I mean, there weren't 10,000 when we beat Miami for the championship.
Perfect.
And we got there and the airport was just, you couldn't get through the airport. And our players are carrying the trophy and you could just see the pandemonium. They could just feel that it was bigger than them. And so we get through the crowd. It took about an hour to get through, and we got to the bus. And you know how the coaches are. The bus is everybody here. You're counting noses. And so I'm last one to get in the bus, and I'm just stepping up. This is why I had to get up, Ryan, okay? So I'm just stepping up to get on the bus, and I feel a tug at my coat. And I turned around, and there was this little guy. He had to be little. Look how tall I am. Had this little guy, and he looked old. Now, probably my age now, but anyway. And he looked like he'd been through it. And he had kind of a big top coat on, and he said, Coach. I said, yeah. He said, this is the greatest day in my life since VE Day.
Whoa.
And I kind of looked down. I just was shocked. I didn't pass history, but I knew VE Day was pretty important. And I looked back, and he was gone. And I got in the bus, and all I could think about was that guy. And I had one snapshot of him in my mind. And we come out, we turn onto Belmont Avenue, and all the way down Belmont Avenue for 7 miles, I guess it is, to campus, something like that. Every store, everything, gas station, YSU champions, we are the champions, music playing, people beeping their horns. I mean, the entire way, all the way to campus. I never saw anything like it. And all I could think about was, I wonder what his story was. I wonder if he immigrated to this country and worked in the steel mill, probably. And then he probably went and served the country. And then he probably came back and went back to work in the mill. And then the mill's closed. And I don't know what his life was from 77 to 91. It's probably pretty hard. And to think that for one person, that victory was the greatest day since VE Day, that's crazy. That's my best story.
Very good. Wow. You're going to make me cry. What a great story. Youngstown is phenomenal, right? We love Youngstown. From stories like that, people like this, it's just a great place to be. And if you're not from Youngstown, you know, we kind of welcome you with open arms in this area. So I mean, it's fair to say you guys have been pretty successful throughout life. It's kind of, you know, coming towards the end with regards to what you want to do with your life. Is there
Coming towards the end of my life?
No, I didn't
What the hell kind of shit is that?
What is he talking about?
I wasn't going to say anything about the length of your sport coat, but now I am.
Right. So, I mean, you're winding down. How's that? Is that better? Winding down. Now, is there anything left professionally or civically that you would like to see yourself accomplish? So is there anything left And again, you've done it all. I mean, not all, but you've done a lot. You've had numerous successes, both of you. But is there anything like, I still want to do this last thing professionally, or that's not even on this notes? I just made this up.
I was just gonna
It's not even
say.
there. You just made it up. Anything professionally or civically that you have left in the tank that you want to put forth, or you just kind of like, I'm going to ride this out?
From my standpoint, I think Youngstown, where it's located logistically and where the world is going logistically, I think we have a chance for us, for all of us, to leave this place in a damn good place for my grandkids and their kids. And I think the next 5 to 10 years and the amount of Kimberly Clarks that we could get to move here, and the Davis DuBose like we saw yesterday, and the plants and the Foxconn and all of these things that could add to take advantage of our great area and logistically where we're located. I'd love to see Youngstown done. I'd love to see us have a Whole Foods. I'd love to see us have shopping again that we're proud of. You know, and I, you know, except for
She's laughing.
I mean, with the malls and everything.
Oh, okay.
Obviously, Eastwood Mall, but where we live, it's seen its better day. And I feel that you have a lot of people, a lot of in this room that all feel the same way, that aren't interested in making any money off it. It's just doing the right thing, and it's something that I continue to give time at, whatever I have to do to help make that happen.
Beautiful. Mr. Tressel?
You know, I was just in a meeting today with someone, and we were talking about the fact that where we're located, within 1 hour drive, we have 7 million people. It's an hour drive on each side of LA, isn't it? Yeah, right? I mean, within 1 hour drive, we have 7 million people, about 3.5 million jobs. And we have the lake, we have the river, we have the highway system. I think 19% of all freight that goes on land, Don Constantini would know better than I, but I think 19% of all freight in the country goes through the valley. I think we're going to have amazing opportunities. Our goal and challenge needs to be, how are we going to prepare the workforce that we're going to need to take advantage of those opportunities? How are we going to repopulate to have the workforce so that like you grew up on the South Side, it was full of workers. You know, right now we've got to repopulate the workforce, which in my mind, I'm an educator. We've got to do a better job in education across the board, and we're going to have every opportunity. And what we're sitting on top of here in the eastern edge of Ohio and the western edge of Pennsylvania, you know, is liquid gold. And so we're going to have every opportunity. We've just got to make sure everyone works together, from parents to education to business to everyone involved, and the public servants, the political leaders. There's no reason why we can't be every bit of what we ever were.
Right. So the future is bright. I mean, it just depends on us now to move forward with regards to what needs to happen. And again, having good people like yourselves in the Valley that help contribute to that, I think it's very important. So when I said earlier that you guys are iconic, I meant it. So we are going to go to the audience. Fred Moran, Window World. Where are you, Fred? There you go. So Fred Moran is going to ask a question of these two gentlemen. And I know you're all waiting for me to make a comment about him standing on his windows. Not only do we stand behind him, but on him. Now you're hanging from gutters, Fred.
Listen, two of the most beautiful people in this country are sitting up here on our stage, Ed and Jim. I congratulate you guys for what you've done, where you've been, where you're going, and for what you've built, a legacy. So I don't really have a question, but I do have a comment, and I really appreciate your friendship. I appreciate everything you've done for the Valley, And I'm sorry Ellen wasn't here. I was going to invite her out for a round of golf when I'm in Florida. So good luck, Jim. Thank you.
Well, that was sweet. All right, Fred. So Fred didn't have a question. He was just paying a compliment to you fine gentlemen. How about the rest of you? Who out there now? This is just, oh, look at that. Boom, hand up in the air. Dr. Mick Angle has a question, so I'm going to walk around and we're going to field a couple questions. We'll answer the questions, then we got to wrap it up because Jimmy T's got something to do at 9:30.
You guys both mentioned earlier about NIL and college football, education versus entertainment. If both of you are now the head coach of Ohio State and Michigan, give me your pitch if I'm the next first round recruit.
You're going to have to give Jim the cliff notes on that question.
Well, unfortunately, the pitch right now is how many dollars are
Yeah, I'm going
offered.
to give you Larry Ellison's number. You can talk to his wife. I mean, sadly, you're exactly right, Jim. I mean, it's financial. I mean, at the end of the day, the university matters, but most of them are not graduating from that university. And it's a financial pitch and an opportunity to play in the limelight on a team that's going to win. So are you,
You know, it used to be you'd sit in a living room or a kitchen with the family and mom and dad would say, hey, look, all I want to make sure is, do you promise me he will get his degree?
Yeah.
And now academics aren't even discussed.
You're not even meeting with the parents.
No,
You're
you're
meeting with
the agent.
representatives.
Yep. So the pitch is, how big is your checkbook? And the other thing that'll be important is, well, who else is playing at that position? And, are you going to infer that I'll be the starter and, yada, yada. But it's not fun right now recruiting. I mean, it used to be fun.
Yeah, and you're beginning to see a lot of college coaches go to pro, and for so long, Jim, you had a lot of pro coaches go to college because of the time and everything. And the Wild West has now caused the opposite to happen.
Flip-flop. Okay, we're going to take another question right over here.
Hi, Ed. Hi, Jim. Dave, I am so proud of you both for what you've done for our community. But I don't know if the room understands what happened when Jim was a coach. I think they divulged or put into an ice castle organization that all of us could contribute to help the university. And I tell you what, it worked out so well. And I tell you, Jim, you made a university work to the highest degree in the industry that we know now. And I think it helped you. But I want to tell you, every one of you guys here, there's a couple of organizations called the Ice Castle. And I think you all should help because Jim Tressel started it. Ed, I think you were part of that too.
Oh, yeah.
So thank you all with the hoop.
All right, great. Right. Speaking of helping others, tonight, obviously, we are here to celebrate these two young men, but also it's the greatest golfer scholarship fund. As you heard Todd Franco mention earlier, the proceeds tonight go to the greatest golfer scholarship fund. There is a flyer on your table with the QR code if you want to scan it at some point during the night. Take a peek, see how you can make a donation, or just see how you can learn more about the greatest golfer scholarship fund. So we have a question over here, wearing a Buckeye sweatshirt.
Yeah. Real quick, I just have a question for you guys. When it comes to coaching, you see like Nick Saban step down and some other coaches step down because of the direction of college football. And what is your thoughts on, the next generation? Because if I had to be a college coach and with everything was going with NIL, it's so much harder now. So do you think that you would be like a Nick Saban to say, you know what, I'm just going to move on? Or is this something that you would want to plow through? So I'm just trying to think of the next generation of college coaches.
Well, there'll be a lot of interest in college coaching. They make a lot of money. I mean, they do. The assistant coaches you know, get unbelievable money right now, and the head coach is, you know, astronomical. And so there's always going to be the interest. And I think it goes back to that there'll be a lot of people that want to be in the entertainment business. And right now, coaching's the entertainment business. So you can kind of see the difference. Ed's coaches at Michigan, most of them started as high school teachers. Then they became head coaches, and then they became college coaches, and they didn't go into it because it was going to pay anything, and it didn't. But it's a different world. I mean, just like the market drives what the market drives, right? People want to be entertainers because they might get a platinum record. So there won't be any shortage of people interested in coaching.
But I think the difference that you're going to see is you're going to hear the word in college football that's happening already, the general manager for the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Yeah.
It's basically in charge of NIL and in between the players, coaches, and there's going to be probably another 5 or 6, if not more, coaches or administrators or analytical people that will be between that. But the money's right. But when you talk to old school coaches that have been around, like Nick Saban and Jim and the Stoopses, to go from when you met the parents in the living room to where it's at today, to go from when you had National Signing Day that you actually had a little bit of time off to having 365-day-a-year recruiting. I mean, it's a different world, and you're seeing burnout on that level to an extreme. So I think the younger coaches coming in will only know the new way and deal with NIL and deal with a general manager. But if you dealt the old way,
Right.
how are you a Nick Saban when you just lost your chance against Michigan to win the national championship, and you have your key players coming in wondering how much money they're making? Are you kidding me? How? Right? He had enough, and he knew that it was his time. The next person coming in that can deal with that differently, probably a different world.
Great question. Great answers. Okay, we have time for a few more. I got Jonas back here. Although I have a question for you, Jim. Who's your favorite MC?
Bob Hannon.
Damn. I knew that was coming. You know, that is true. Big Bob Sports. Where is Bob Hannon? Some of you are like, why the hell is Blasco holding this mic? I know nothing about sports, folks. Nothing. So Bob Hannon probably should be up here. All right, Jonas.
Sorry.
Final question.
All right. So I'm going to use the final question, Mr. President Tressel. Thank you. Just following up on the question with the NIL, do you envision a multi-year deal system where, you have to play 3 years or 4 years to get a heavily loaded contract from year 1 to year 4?
I think there's going to be a collective bargaining agreement. I think you're going to have some type of contractual tie because, for somebody to give somebody $1 million at Ohio State and for that person to never play quarterback for Ohio State and to be at Texas and make $1 million, it just can't continue. So I would think, I don't know if you're going to call it a collective bargaining agreement, but something like that these coaches have to know that other than a graduate student or somebody just dropping out, that they don't have to worry about them going across the street tomorrow. I think has to happen. Jim?
Absolutely, to get this Wild West corralled. But what's going to be interesting is, can the nonprofit organizations, i.e. the universities, ever get antitrust
exemption
to be able to do that? And to me, until that happens, because universities certainly don't want to lose their nonprofit status. So it's Jonas. I don't know. Well, we paid Jonah a lot to be a YSU golfer, so you know. He was NIL before there was NIL.
Oh, jeez.
I did too. I got Ponderosa cards for Sunday and everything.
All right, we're going to take one more question. I'm going to give the mic to Chris Sammartino real quick here. Question?
Chris has got that Cincinnati Molar top on.
I have one question for Ed and one question for Coach. Ed, what's a favorite story from your days with Bo Schembechler between you and he? And Coach, do you have a player either at Youngstown or Ohio State that impacted you in a way that you still often think about that player, or you're impacted or affected in some way that has had a long-lasting thought or impact on you?
So I would say with Bo, it was kind of three things. One, obviously the things on the field and the opportunity and how he treated my parents. That's obvious as to the coach he was and all of that. How he was to my family, caring about my son and my kids like a father would, making sure that Eddie was okay and all of that. And the relationship we had post-football, I think, was my most special piece of Bo Schembechler. And so many stories, and Mary, you have millions of them, but he was just a good man that got the most out of everybody. That, you know, from our standpoint, probably I knew I made it after we won the Rose Bowl, and we might have been out after the game, and my friends left me. So I had to get a ride home on a motorcycle in Pasadena. Got dropped off the front of the Huntington Sheridan, and Bo was walking out with Butch Woolfolk. They were on their way. You know, anybody could have ran for 300 yards against our line, with our line. And Bo was walking out. It was one of those moments where it's either it's over, my Michigan career is kind of over, or this is pretty cool. And he had a cigar and hugged me, and I knew it was that we were bonded forever. From my standpoint, with Bo at the end, kind of ironically, it was really hard, Chris, to not like Ohio State when Jim was there, with as classy as he was and the relationship we had, what he did at YSU. And we ran into each other a couple times going down the tunnel. But this sums up the respect of this, and I'll shut up and turn it over. But Bo talked to the team the year that Ohio State and Michigan were 1-2. And Bo talked to the team like at 9 o'clock in the morning, went to go do his radio show, Mary, and passed away that morning, Friday. Saturday, we go into Columbus. It was a chilly day. You were supposed to pass the ball all over, and I think he had like 400 yards rushing. Ohio State wins the game. And Monday, we, as a Michigan community, go and recognize Bo. And we're in Chrysler Arena, and everybody's crying and seeing each other. I have a person that pushes me in the back, figuring it's one of my linemen or somebody there, and it was Jim Tressel. And the respect that I knew he had from the history of what Woody and Bo meant to him and his father, and the respect that we had for each other, that's what the world's all about. And although we have a rivalry and we miss Bo like hell, that just says it all about what Bo was about. It was like, it was just a testament to him and Woody and what they meant. Not just wins and losses, but the people that they created and the way they were in that room and the respect. Now, I'll never forget that. And I think that kind of sets the tone for the whole rivalry, and my respect for that man there is unbelievable.
You know, that was a difficult weekend for lots of people. In fact, if you remember at our stadium, I mean, it was just the love that was poured out for Bo.
Yeah, except for that one guy that has pictures that I caught on fire, but other than that, it was great weekend.
But you know, that's just what it was about, you know, and seeing all you guys at Bo's thing there at Chrysler was, you know, that's what you hope your experience is about, which is education and love versus is someone just working for you. But to answer your question, you know, I had thousands of players that were, all of them had a different impact. If you made me pick one that kind of made me sit up straight, and it was that same year, 06, we had a young man in practice, in spring practice, catch a little pass. We were in Ohio Stadium, and it was just a scrimmage. There were no people there or anything, and he caught a little pass over the middle, and he got tackled from behind, and he was motionless. And you could just hear and feel the oxygen leave the entire stadium because you knew something was wrong. And his name was Tyson Gentry, and he was a walk-on wide receiver and great kid, and ended up having a spinal cord injury. And ironically, in preseason prior to that year, we had invited a young lady to speak to our team who was in a wheelchair that was out riding a bike with her husband, and a tree fell, and she had a spinal cord injury and ended up in a wheelchair, and it missed her husband. And she talked about handling adversity and so forth. And she asked a favor from our team. She said, could you each write a sentence or two and sign your autograph, and so we can hang it up in the Doan Hall Rehab Center at Ohio State's medical campus, where the spinal cord injury folks are, and they would love to, get a message from the Buckeyes. And so our guys all did that and so forth. Well, Tyson ended up 6 months later being in that same facility. And the nurse brought to him his message that he wrote 6 months earlier to those patients. And I'll never forget him saying, be careful about giving advice. You might have to take that advice yourself. And his advice was simply, hang in there. We're all with you. God loves you. It's very simple. And he has since created a foundation for families with spinal cord injuries, and he realized how fortunate he was to have a family who could come down and support him and so forth, but a lot of families don't. And so Tyson Gentry with the New Perspectives Foundation, he to this day will tell you the greatest thing that ever happened in his life was he got the spinal cord injury. In fact, he named his first son after the young man that tackled him. And I mean, he's just an impact guy from Sandusky Perkins High School, and to this day, every time the phone rings and it's Tyson, just your heart swells. But
Jim, thank you for sharing.
Thanks, Ryan.
And thank you for sharing. Ladies and gentlemen, what an honor that we're blessed to be here with these two fine legends. Give them a round of applause. Thank all of you for coming. That's right. Get on your feet. Thanks for being here.